now. The three clubmen happen to be with me. Jen Olive is in Las Vegas. Stu Rowe is in Swindon. And Mr. Andy Partridge is in an undisclosed, secret, and mysterious location. Welcome
Yes,
to all three.
miles underground with
Miles
crystal
underground.
balls.
Okay. Well, welcome to all three of you. I am very delighted to be able to chat to you. Let's talk about, there's something which caught my attention when I was reading just a little bit of the PR stuff that your PR person sent to me. And it says the chemistry was instant, the room was buzzing, and the ideas flowed over pints at the Roaring Donkey pub. Okay, we can't go any further without discussing the Roaring Donkey pub.
I think Andy used to work for the Advert, didn't you? Didn't you used to work up there?
I did. It was there used to be a local newspaper in Swindon called the Evening Advertiser, Swindon Evening Advertiser. And all of the reporters and staff used to drink in a tiny little pub in a back alley behind it called the Roaring Donkey. And really nice couple ran it for a few years, and they did great ale in there. So myself, it ended up being my local for a few years, and I think Stu was, had be convinced to go in there as well. And Jen, did you ever get in there?
I only got in there a couple of times, but
yeah, I quite like.
I got the experience.
Yeah, I quite like the vibe in there. I must admit, it was in a little area called Little London.
Oh,
because way back in the Victorian era, all these sort of Cockney ne'er-do-wells had moved down to Swindon, and all seemed to congregate in that one area, all around by the Roaring Donkey.
Well, it's a great story, and I just love the name. And I just for my American listeners, English pubs and English pub names are just they're so unique. There's not anything like it really anywhere else in the world. It seems to me names like the Roaring Donkey. I just love it.
I think the name comes from the print machines, that they sounded like a roaring donkey. That's what it was called, something else. But in the day, when local newspapers actually used to print,
letterpress,
when they did that, the noise sounded like a roaring donkey. I think that's what it's called. And I believe the only time we spent a day in the studio, I think was in here, we went to the Roaring Donkey for a pint, and that's when the name, the Clubmen, the three Clubmen, was chosen.
Okay, so let's talk.
It's deep into the story.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the name, because I know people are going to ask. They've already asked me. They've said, "Well, hold on a second. The three Clubmen. It has a sort of a connotation of something, but I'm not quite sure what." Now, I've read the PR blurb that I've got on this, but I just like one of you to, maybe Stu, maybe you can give us a sort of an overview of where the name came from.
Actually, I'm going to let Andy do this.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was he came up with the name. It's a great story. But
there you go. Yeah.
I think Andy's our historical expert.
Yes. I'm going to gather round, children. During the English Civil War, you were expected to take one side or the other. You were either expected to be a parliamentarian, or you were expected to be a royalist. And certain counties had big groups of people that did not want to pick sides. And they made their own militias, their own protective kind of force, which were inevitably called the Clubmen. And, they would have no truck with either side. They wanted things to be their way. They didn't want to, we don't want to go this way, or we don't want to go that way. They said, no, we'll do it our way. And they were inevitably called the Clubmen. And Wiltshire had several brigades of Clubmen, I believe. And we were going to just call ourselves the Clubmen. And then I think Stu said, I've been looking around on the net, and there are, some other musicians or bands or whatever that have chosen the Clubmen. And so we just chose the three Clubmen because there are three of us. So
indeed,
that's the story, folks.
And it's a great story, and I like it. Let me ask you this about being the three of you in in a band, I guess. Would you call yourselves a band, a group? I mean, it's funny these days how to describe what people do. So
No, I'd say it's a project.
Project,
The
yes.
project.
Yeah.
It kind of grew out of. I was doing a lot of projects with different singers and musicians, and then I sort of met Andy and Jen. So we started working together on a very loose project. But then it became very obvious that there was something that the three of us could do, but it's not really a band as such. We're not going out on the road or rehearsing in the garden, in the garage. But
okay, so that leads me to ask you, because I wanted to get to this and ask you about performing live and going out on the road. So this is not part of the plan, or is it down the road a piece?
It's I don't think we had it on the schedule to do that. It's more of a, because the whole project is improvised. How does one take the best constructed collage of improvised pieces and then just reproduce it live over and over again? That, to me, that kind of kills off the intention. The intention was that it be things that we threw at the canvas and then scraped it away over months, years in some cases, and it is what it is. It's the best of an improvised, grabbed pieces. I mean, nobody sat down to write any songs or anything. They were just simply, oh, try this line, try this chord, try this this little piece of music here, and we cut away probably more than we use. So the idea of reproducing it over and over and over again live, to me, seems to kill off what is really good about the project.
I think I read somewhere, Andy, and I may have got this slightly wrong, but I thought I saw a quote that you said that the three Clubmen are like a Jackson Pollock painting. It's sort of, it's in the moment. It's. Did I get that quote?
No, that's a reasonable analogy. It's we're throwing oral paint at a canvas, a blank canvas, and oh, try this chord, try this figure to go over it. Why don't we try this figure in another key? Oh, that's a bit jarring, but I kind of like that. I prefer that.
Yeah.
And what happened was really scraping away the stuff we didn't need reveals that the stuff that we did need.
Right.
It's a different way of, call them songs if you want to, but it's a different way of constructing pieces of music with vocals.
Yes.
It's closer to improvised jazz in many ways.
Yes, indeed. Jen, I've got to ask you, there you are in Las Vegas, and I'm curious to know, working with two Englishmen with their dour sense of humor, that English sort of how does that work for you?
I don't. It's funny that you ask that, because I don't experience English people the way that they're typically characterized. That is just not my experience. Maybe because they're musicians or, artists, that, I don't perceive them that way, but I really don't perceive it that way. I experience them as wacky and very funny and very uplifted. I don't catch the dour aspect.
Well, I was being a little tongue in cheek there. I was being but there is the British sometimes are perceived as being a little sort of,
and uptight and stiff, and I will say they both have better manners than I do. That is the truth.
They use a knife and fork when eating instead of just a fork, right?
Well, actually, they eat pizza with a knife and fork. I mean, and we won't get into that, but shocking. Yeah. And then cake with their hands. Who can understand these things?
Exactly.
But, I don't really experience that divide that you're talking about. I've been asked that before. How is it being American, working with two very, English people? And the sensibilities are there, the musical sensibilities are there, the point of view is there. So
we all speak music. So
it's not
music with each other, so there's no case of
we don't have an accent in that regard.
And there's something that comes across in your music, in this EP, there's something that sort of, in some respects, very unified. Yet at the same time, I can hear individual parts. So it's very interesting. I've been listening to this EP a great deal, and on the track we started with, Avatrix, it's just the way that you've put everything together. I'm curious to know about just the making of the music. Andy, I think, already said that it can take a couple of years, a couple of weeks. There's no sort of set time. But having said that, is there a sort of a formula for you three to put music together?
Shall I answer that
you
one?
wanna-
Please,
Yeah,
yes.
dive in there. Stu.
Yeah. Well, if we say we take Aviatrix, is that they all start with one person's kind of idea. So Andy had this guitar riff, and he laid it down in 5 or 6 different keys simultaneously. Then me and him blended that into some kind of musical shape. And then what we do, then we send it to Jen and say, what would you do on this? And she'll send back like sometimes 35 vocal parts. We'll sift them. Oh, that's the verse. Then Andy or me or add someone else, or someone will come in the studio, play a saxophone on it. And it's a pass the musical parcel between us.
Yes.
They've all started, the Grasshopper started with one of Jen's guitars. Andy's, I think, was a loop. Look at Those Stars was a Mellotron loop from an old 60s instrument. So, but it's the sonic parcel. That's how they end up, how they do, I think.
Now,
yeah, good description, Stu.
Yeah. Now the lyrics, from what I can hear and from what I see, it does appear to be mostly Andy and Jen. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for the both of you, Andy and Jen, do you collaborate, or is it something that Jen, you come up with some ideas and then Andy throws in? How does that work?
Well, it depends. If I receive, like with Aviatrix, there was one verse already laid out. And so I just take it as a concept and respond. I mean, I think that the songs where we are singing together, I approached in a very sort of call and response kind of little story movie kind of way. But there are other times when, I think we don't collaborate with each other. He lays something down, I lay something down. We just play off of it, in our own private spaces, and then it comes together. Then later, when you look at the whole, you say, oh, there's a little story in there. There's something in there. The meaning is revealed much later. I don't think there's no plan. There's no idea, collective idea about what the song is about, or what we're going to write about, so to speak. It doesn't work that way. It's
exactly. Nobody sits down and says that we're going to make a song about so let's all write about here. It doesn't work like that. It works like Jen will have an idea for a lyric line, and I'll have an idea for a lyric line. They may not be related, and in fact, if they aren't, you get a more interesting dream happen if they're not related. I can't hear how the different parts of Green Grasshopper are related, but it works great. I can't hear how the different parts vocally of Aviatrix are related, but it works great. They're like separate chapters in a book. You read the whole book and then you go, that's what it's about. But you don't get it while you're in it, if you see what I mean.
I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, which is something which I tend to do, but I was listening to an interview with a very famous musician whose name I won't mention yesterday. I was listening to a radio interview, and this very famous musician was lambasting the whole idea of AI and working in separate studios and using technology. He was just going off, having a rant about this was the doom of music. This was the end, and working separately and working, and AI was going to take over and all the rest of it. As I said, I don't want to go off on a tangent about this, but I get the feeling that all three of you have exactly the opposite idea. Not necessarily AI, but working separately and using technology you consider is important, yeah?
Absolutely.
It's important for this. It's important for this project. That's what this project is.
But I don't think any of these things are going to be the death of, you know, so it no more than paper and pencil was the death of ideas. You know, it's it's just another tool. Yeah, exactly. It's a tool to. I mean, I remember all the fuss when the synthesizer came around. The musicians union was saying, you know, this is going to kill off orchestras, this is going to kill off real musicians. Of course it doesn't. It's just another flavor to use. It's another shade in the paint box to use, you know.
Well, I was there.
Drum machine. The drum machine was the same thing. It's almost that every new invention is said this is going to ruin music, but the great, you know, people like the people who go forward, like Hendrix, just went with a new invention. Just go with it. It's happening, or you can try and make music like people did 50 years ago. But it's kind of been done brilliantly. I think you got to
totally. I did many years ago. I did an interview with the great reggae drummer Sly Dunbar, and I said to him, "So what do you think about Sin drums?" And he said, "Man, it's great. I've got another instrument to play. I've got it's wonderful." And you know, and absolutely, I agree with all of you. And thank you for responding to that. If you're just joining us, my guests are the three clubmen in Las Vegas, Jen Olive, in a secret location, undisclosed. Apparently many miles below ground is the one and only Andy Partridge. And a gentleman with a big grin on his face in Swindon, he says, is Mr. Stu Rowe. Okay, let's hear the story.
Well, to me, as this EP came together, it just became. We always do the songs very visually. So Aviatrix is about the journey to Swindon. Then Race Car is about driving around in Swindon, so it should sound like it's in Swindon. There's the sound of the wet Swindon.
Wet Swindon.
It's very apparently it's a very wet place, Swindon. And then the scenery moves to a desert, to the jungle with grasshopper, and then finally to this desert island. So there's just these four bits that the tale seems to evolve, and each song goes into the other. That was the plan. So it's one 15-minute thing if you wish it to be.
Yes. Yeah.
If you wish it to be.
And, you know, something when I was listening, when I first got the EP, I was listening and I'm thinking to myself, it's very filmatic. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. There's
we all have a cinematic sort of bent, I think.
Yes.
I think we all really like movies and really like I think in very cinematic ways. When I hear music, it immediately creates a film in my mind, and I start looking at the characters and picking them apart and deciding what they might be up to.
Jen, are you synesthetic? Sorry, Norman. Jen, are you synesthetic?
I am actually, yeah.
Yeah, me too. I can hear a chord, and I've got pictures and colors and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I feel it in my fingers too, which is really strange.
That is fantastic.
I get a sensory feeling in the tips of my fingers when I hear, and sometimes I can't. I actually don't listen to a lot of music because I will become completely distracted. I can't in the supermarket if there's music on. I can't shop. I have to get out of there. I have to do everything online because I'll just wander aimlessly listening. Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? I can't get out of it once I'm in it. So
yes. You know, oh, that's I want to touch on something, and might seem like a very small little thing, but I don't know. You guys probably can hear it, but I think specifically my listeners in America, and I've got listeners all over the place, but can you hear the very distinctive Wiltshire accent of Andy Partridge? Stu Rowe doesn't seem to have it quite so much, but Andy, you've kept that accent, which is
Stu is not originally from
Swindon.
There you go. Yeah.
I can slip into. I've been in quite a while. If I'm around Swindonians a lot, it does come. It is there, but Anders is born and bred. It's deep.
I mean, years ago when we started playing in London, in the XTC stuff, our management would sit us down and say, "Look, can you disguise your accent because you just sound like yokels? You just sound like hayseeds or whatever they call them over in the States.
Yeah.
because and I over the years I've gradually how shall I say ironed down my accent because it was quite bumpy and quite
Right.
ha, you know. It's like that old joke, you know, why do all pirates sound like they're from Bristol? Because
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
are.
Yes.
You know,
Jen, I've got to ask you, do you hear the accent? Is that noticeable?
I mean, as opposed to a different English accent,
Yeah, yeah.
no, I'm American. It's all charming to me. I mean, to
it's all
me,
Dick Van Dyke,
it's
isn't it?
all very, yeah, it's all very,
It's all
fantastic.
blimey.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something that I hear quite often, Americans will say, it always sounds so more intelligent when you say something. And I can be saying something so completely daft and stupid, and they go, oh, that sounds really intelligent. Do you ever get that?
I
Do I?
found that personally, I found that if I'm in the States, I haven't been in the States for quite a while now, but I
Yeah.
used to spend quite a lot of time there because I'm married to an American lady. Um, I found that if I got a cab anywhere in, say, New York or LA or wherever I was, if I put on my slightly upper class voice, they do anything for you. You know, they're
It's true.
opening doors, carrying stuff, or you want your apartment decorated, you know, it was
Yeah, they wonder if you're a prince.
yeah, exactly, some sort of royalty or
Yeah,
whatever.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so
yeah,
I found that I cynically would put on the upper class just to sort of tweak, you know.
Yes.
that's funny.
Totally understand. I want to ask you, Jen,
Mm.
your background in music goes back. And I don't want to be sort of rude when I say this, but it goes back a little while, doesn't it?
Why would that be rude? It goes back a long while. I've been around a long while.
So
Yeah.
just
You don't have the Jen Olive cylinder records?
No, yeah, well, I mean, if you can call it that, but yeah, it goes, I mean, my first real stab into the commercial or the, official world was with Andy in 20, I think the record came out in 2010.
yeah,
So yeah, it goes back a minute. Yeah.
getting
But,
into the music business,
mm,
and I this is something again. Is I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but getting into the music business as a woman,
mm,
is it still predominantly a male business? Do you think, or do you think things have changed?
hmm. Well, that's a good question. I think that nothing has changed, and but the capacity to find a way for yourself has grown. So if you are hell bent on getting right into the middle of the industry and where it sits, you're going to be doing, the same thing they were doing in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. But there are many opportunities to create something for yourself have it on your terms
Yes.
that didn't exist before. And that's kind of my jam. I So, to answer your question, yes and no. Depends on what part of the industry or that you are talking about.
Yes. Okay. Good answer. Stu, I want to throw this one to you, and that is, over the years that you've been involved in the music business, outside of the technology, but things have changed. People's attitudes have changed, but fundamentally, that's still pretty much it's the basic thing of there's guitar, drums, and bass, and whatever, and you get up and perform. But for you, somebody that's been involved in a number of different bands and collaborations over the years, is there any sort of one area or one thing that you can sort of pinpoint and say that has really changed your outlook on how you make music?
Well, interesting. I also do quite a bit of music teaching. So I see kids at the start of the process, like when I was 16. And I still think that energy at that point is you just want to make a noise with your friends. And that will never go away. For me, the biggest turning point, I say, was the invention of the sampling technology that came along. At that point, but you can recreate these sounds and put things in different contexts. Until that point, I've been very much like playing a band. You go in the studio, you put the microphones in, you play the song, you record it, and that's it. But once this kind of the there's good and bad about digital, obviously, but I think once you get to the point you can chop stuff up, rearrange it, reconstruct it, so you're making films rather than like a play. So I think for me that was massive. That took me down a completely different avenue. I still like playing guitar, but it just opens it up. I think it's a massive invention.
Andy,
it's a bit like William Burroughs when he Brian Gysin showed him the technique of cut-ups,
Right.
Where I think Brian Gysin discovered it accidentally. He was cutting some cardboard up, and the cardboard had stuck to some newspaper, and he was cutting up these strips of cardboard, and when he turned them over, he noticed the newspaper was stuck to the back. But it was all like sliced down the center of these articles, and then he started rearranging the edges of the different articles together, and noticed they started making fantastic dream-like things that you would not get if you just sat with a typewriter and wrote, if you tapped away. He showed that to William Burroughs. William Burroughs started using it to write novels. David Bowie saw it from William Burroughs, started using that technique as well. And so I can see where Stu's coming from with chopping up and dicing up, collaging sounds, that already exist. It doesn't mean you can't make something totally brand new.
Andy, I'm not going to say that you're a musicologist. I don't know if that's a good title or not, but you come across to me as being somebody that loves music and is just really into listening. And I'm looking at what you have behind you. It's like where I am. You can't see them. If I turn the camera around, I've got books galore. I mean, I love reading. I do so much reading. I think you do a lot of reading and you do a lot of listening. I just want to ask you about music today and what you hear that you think is important in what you're hearing musically.
The only thing that thrills me about music from any era, well, not the only thing, the one of the things that thrills me is the essence of creativity, which is mistakes. If you make mistakes, you will trip your brain into a different area and suddenly you're creating.
Yes.
If you're not making mistakes, if you're not messing up, you're not creating. You're going down the same pre-programmed path. You're not going anywhere new. You're stuck on the rails.
Yeah.
But if you make mistakes and errors, all you have to do is to recognize that is wrong and that is so right. That's perfectly. I never thought about that before. Doing it with that way or jumping from that key to that key, it's really dislocated, but it suits perfectly if I bring that note up to it and you get a sense of opening the window and the fresh air coming in. You get brand new ideas by making mistakes. So you have to make mistakes. You have to make as many errors as you can make. That's what thrills me about music, the sound of people that sound like they're making mistakes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh gosh, I love that. Some people like to go, my favorite record is, the best record in the world is, the best band in the world is. And I always think to myself, I haven't heard the best band or the best record in the world yet, because there's always something new coming along. And I just love that.
Yeah, you don't want the whole journey to be downhill, do you?
No,
you know what I mean?
No, exactly.
You hear something at 13, you think, yep, that's it. That's the very best thing I'm ever going to hear.
Yeah.
What's the point? Just end it all.
Which is why I guess classic rock radio in America is so successful. Nobody wants to grow up, I guess, in that respect.
Well, that's a lot of nostalgia is dangerous.
Yeah.
It's good to have a little sip of it now and then, but you don't want to climb in a bath of it and drink the bath dry every hour of every day.
Yes,
because you won't grow. You're done. You're finished. Yeah.
Stu, you were going to say something.
No, I was totally agreeing with that. Just keep moving forward. All the best people just keep moving forward. It's relatively easy to copy what's done 50 years ago.
Indeed. Lose this. But is there anything that you would like me to talk about? Is there anything specific that I like to go, as you can probably hear, I like to go wherever the conversation takes us.
I'd rather that be the case, personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
There's only so much. What did Frank Zappa said? Talking about music is like tap dancing about architecture. You know, there's only
yes.
It's you're trying to describe one media by using another, and it's you know, I'm using gravy to describe yachting. It doesn't kind of work, you know.
Right.
So let's go anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and the
we're
EP was done in the spirit of improvisation, so we would be crazy to conduct the interviews in a structured way. So let's just keep going.
I had to ask because sometimes some musicians and some people, they're like, oh, well, you didn't ask me, or you didn't. So okay.
Oh, that's thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Norman.
Thank you so much. All right. See you
All right.
just in a few minutes.
See you in a
Okay.
minute.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to pee, I think.